So guys, here are some of the updates as regards to the breaking news of the Nigerian Air Force personnel that have been arrested in Burkina Faso, 11 of them in number, and also the plane they were in, the C-130 plane from the Nigerian Air Force, is said to have been seized by the Burkina Faso government. So I want to bring you guys some updates to that news. Like you can see here, it says it was heading for Portugal. Air Force breaks silence on aircraft in Burkina Faso. They said they were going to Portugal before they had an emergency landing. Like you can see here, it also says NFA says its C-130 wasn't grounded in Burkina Faso, clarifying it made a precautionary landing due to technical issue. But don't forget that the news coming from Burkina Faso is saying that Burkina Faso seized the plane and arrested the men. Like you can see this headline here, it says Burkina Faso says aircraft carrying 11 Nigerian soldiers violated its airspace and the soldiers have been arrested. So Nigerians are now wondering, why is the NAF telling us that they weren't arrested, neither were they grounded, that they just landed for, for precautionary measures. Now, this is coming from Rufai. He retweeted a tweet coming from the Nigerian Air Force on why they landed in Burkina Faso. Let me read out the tweet. It's released: safe precautionary landing of NFA C-130 aircraft in Burkina Faso. The Nigerian Air Force wishes to clarify reports regarding the diversion of a NAF C-130 aircraft during its ferry mission to Portugal on 8 December 2025 following takeoff from Lagos. The crew observed a technical concern which necessitated a precautionary landing in Bobo de Alasso, Burkina Faso, the nearest airfield, in accordance with standard safety procedures and international aviation protocols. NFA crew is safe and have received cordial treatment from the host country. It went further to say plans are ongoing to resume the mission as scheduled. The Nigerian Air Force appreciates the support received during this period and assures the public that NFA remains professionally committed to strict compliance with operational procedures and safety standards, ensuring the precaution of its personnel while fulfilling its constitutional mandate. This is coming from Ehimem Ejodame, Air Force Commando. Air Commando, Director of Public Relations and Information, Headquarters, Nigerian Air Force, December 9th, 2025. This is what they put out, that they had like a precautionary landing. That was why they landed. But like I told you guys that Burkina Faso, you must have seen one of their military officers here. He gave this press release on the telling the public that they arrested Nigerian personnel, military personnel, and they've also grounded the Nigerian Air Force plane, And then Nigerians have been questioning as to what were they even going to Portugal to do, because the route to Portugal and the route to Burkina Faso are just like, it's like you going to Sokoto and you are found in Cross River. You know how it looks like, you want to go to Sokoto, but someone now cited you in Cross River State. People are asking, how dare you be going to Portugal and then you were seen in another person's territory? And that is what has raised a lot of questions from Nigerians. Like you can see here, this map here is showing you the route to Portugal, and this other one is also showing you the route to Burkina Faso, and you can see the difference between the two maps, as in there's nothing similar. There's no way if heading to Portugal you find yourself in Burkina Faso, and that is what has been causing a whole lot of uproar on the social media. Nigerians are saying they want to know the truth, because the Burkina Faso government is saying, oh, we arrested your men and they are in our custody, and the Nigerian Air Force is saying nothing like that happened. And Nigerians are asking for the actual story or what actually transpired. So you can see this, the place that is circled in red is Burkina Faso, and the blue line you are seeing there is Portugal. The route to Portugal, you can see the distance from Lagos to Portugal is the blue line, while the circled place is Burkina Faso. So you can see there's no way these two places are even close to one another, and that is also what Nigerians have been reacting about. Now I'm going to quickly take you through some of the reactions coming from Nigerians, because they don't believe the stories coming from the Nigerian Air Force. They are still questioning what was the plane going to do in Portugal, and how come you are going to Sokoto and then you were spotted somewhere in Lagos or in Cross River, which is away from Sokoto. Now let's see how Nigerians are reacting. This person said, but the Burkina Faso said they forced the jet to land due to suspicious and unauthorized movements. Who is lying and who is telling the truth? Which mission was the Air Force sent to do in Portugal? Never heard of any of such before. That is Nigerians reacting. And this other person here also said, I automatically doubt anything from this government on default. I only believe them after I run multiple checks. And this other person said, waiting C130 they go fine for Portugal. And this other person here said, while this reeks of prevarication, does it not also expose the lack of intelligence in the military, flying through a country whose airspace is restricted? Meanwhile, Burkina Faso government said the NFA C-130 aircraft was forced to land. And this other person here said maybe on the order of his French boyfriend, he was told to invade Burkina Faso and Benin. But while the illegal military operation succeeded in Benin, it backfired in other countries. Nigerian government has a lot of explanation to give Nigerians with the rubber stamp Senate President of Nigeria and the Nigerian Senate. Lastly, Burkina Faso military is not a pushover anymore, and Nigeria shares a 1,600-kilometer long border with one of the AES state members. The Tinubu, he says that APC things with their anus. That's what this person is saying. Another person here reacted, say they have started again. These unprofessionals have started again. If the landing had been this friendly, Burkina Faso wouldn't have authorized a press conference to make the sharp comment they did. Those 11 security personnel are still being held hostage. The Nigerian C-130 plane remains seized. Nigerians are still not agreeing with the information coming from, the Nigerian Air Force. They said all these things are stories to cover up, because Nigerians believe that the Nigerian government is always telling lies. And some people are saying, why are we now here? Why did we hear it first from Burkina Faso? Why didn't the Nigerian government quickly come out to say something before now? Anyway, guys, let me just allow you to take a look at this video. All these still point to the coup that happened that was about to happen in Benin Republic, that was foiled by the Tinubu's government. Many people are still pointing at Tinubu that Tinubu wants to jam the head of Emmanuel Macron and the Russian president Putin together, because Putin is a friend of these AES states, these Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso states. These are places that Putin is working with. Then Tinubu is working with France. So if France is the one that had ordered, because the news yesterday also had it that Emmanuel Macron was the one that ordered Tinubu to intervene in Benin Republic. So you can imagine what that means. It means that Tinubu is like the middleman trying to jump the head of Putin and the French president together. So guys, a whole lot of reactions on the social media. Nigerians have really been reacting. But let me allow you to take a look at this video, and let me also know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now take a look.
This means that a side seems to be happy. The question is, who does this coup benefit in the great power play between Russia, France, and America? If you look at the geopolitical actors in West Africa, who benefits more from the coup in Benin Republic? On the Nigerian part and the ECOWAS part, of course, it's a great disadvantage to the ECOWAS stability, where you had ECOMOG play a critical role, and who has led or contributed to the systemic degrading of ECOMOG and the ECOWAS fighting force over the last 20 years. So who is now coming to pick off the bits and pieces of some of the systemic campaign across, ECOWAS? So the matters are not political, just political, because Marine Le Pen was removed from the ballot in France. That's political. It didn't lead to a coup. Estonia had its elections. The major winner was removed. The election was played back. Moldova had the same incident. And so Africa cannot be, singled out for just being only political when you have actors destabilizing the region. Lastly, a coup in Benin will not happen except there's external support and external incentive. So those are the bigger problems.
With Benin, Niger, of course, it borders Nigeria. Now, this is bordering our commercial nerve center, Lagos, and, the encircles. Should Nigeria be bordered?
Godfrey, I don't understand the question. Nigeria is clearly bordered. We've acted very decisively. I think that if you look at, I listened to the speaker speak on Mali. The reason why we couldn't act on Mali then is that we needed some amendments to the mutual military Defense Pact under ECOWAS. So I think those amendments had come in. I'm not sure we've domesticated yet, but those were achieved, I think, sometime in August 2025. So we didn't have the multilateral instrument, as it were, to decisively address what they now class as regional threats. So I think ECOWAS has shown in its own statement that it is willing to act very decisively to ensure that these matters do not get destabilized. Godfrey, there's no time, so I can't talk about the geopolitical implication, but what worries me is that a side seems to be happy. The question is, who does this coup benefit in the great power play between Russia, France, and America? If you look at the geopolitical actors in West Africa, who benefits more from the coup in Benin Republic? On the Nigerian part and the ECOWAS part, of course, it's a great disadvantage to the ECOWAS stability, where you had ECOMOG play a critical role, and who has led or contributed to the systemic degrading of ECOMOG and the ECOWAS fighting force over the last 20 years. So who's now coming to pick off the bits and pieces of some of the systemic campaign across, ECOWAS? So the matters are not political, just political, because Marine Le Pen was removed from the ballot in France. That's political. It didn't lead to a coup. Estonia had its elections. The major winner was removed. The election was played back. Moldova had the same incident. So Africa cannot be, singled out for just being only political when you have actors destabilizing the region. Lastly, a coup in Benin will not happen except there's external support and external incentive. So those are the bigger problems. And I think to your question, yes, we say in security, when fast legs are moving, fast eyes should be watching. So I want to commend the president and also call the presidency to act quickly, to move to the National Assembly. Now they've applied Section 5.5. There's an exceptional imminent threat to us. But they must now go back to Section 5.4 to seek validation from the National Assembly to ensure that the engagements of our troops are within the ambit of law, and Nigeria continues to act in ways and manners that fosters and protect our national security, our national interests, and of course the national defense of our territory. And those are my thoughts, Geoffrey.
So let's get into what's playing out in Benin Republic. Yes, there was an attempt to take power by a group of soldiers. It was thwarted, according to the country's interior minister at first. Then we started getting comments from ECOWAS and eventually Nigeria's president, who sort of detailed what exactly happened, how the Benin government asked for Nigeria's intervention and how we deployed fighter jets to bombard and precisely, let me use those words, with precision, those who planned the coup. So it's a mixed bag, really. The fact that there was an attempt in the first place, as I said earlier on, there were some talks around it last year, but again, that was thwarted. Some people were arrested. But the fact that this was attempted, the mutineers actually took over the national TV station. They made an announcement before we then had the interior minister, raises lots of concern. So let's break through those issues in terms of geopolitics, the security angle to it, and how this also concerns Nigeria. We're joined by Commodore Promise Dapper, former naval officer, joins us via Zoom from Port Harcourt. I will also be speaking with Mr. Ikachi Adekoya eventually. But Commodore, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
I wonder what stuck out for you from that attempted coup, because it was a lot of things coming together, right? So for you, seeing when the news broke early in the morning, to Nigeria's response, ECOWAS's response, and eventually the president of Benin also given a statement, how did it hit you as a military person?
Okay, thank you. See, this has been an ongoing scenario, is an emerging trend, especially in the Francophone countries. I have had the opportunity to also interact with some of the military officers when I was in service. We used to meet at the Lake Chad Basin Commission and the Multinational Joint Task Force meeting. And most of them will always complain about the overbearing interference of foreign power like France in their politics, their economy. They will even complain that they virtually cannot do anything without interference, foreign interference. So there are these nauseating feelings among the Francophone countries to get rid of such interference, to be able to freely decide for themselves, to be able to freely decide the way and manner they want to live. So it wasn't surprising for the current wave of what I would call a nationalism or sweeping through the Francophone countries, trying to redefine themselves, trying to reestablish themselves, the way they do things and the way they live. And also, in Sub-Sahara, we know about the issues of poverty, corruption, and misrule generally. So those things have always been in the front. Each time there's any such attempt at, we hear stories of coup, they have always cited the instance of foreign intervention, cited the instance of corruption, poverty, the government shutting out opposition, not playing giving a level playing ground for everybody. You hear issues of ethnic dominance, one ethnic group trying to dominate the other. You hear issues of insecurity, government not being able to secure the people, the property, and the country. Those things have always come to the fore. And it was the same old story that we had in the case of Benin. So it wasn't quite surprising. It was like something that was waiting. First we had Mali, then Niger, we had Chad, Guinea-Bissau, you know. So it was like asking who's next. Then Benin Republic just like kind of raising up their hand, we are here, we are next. So that's, I think, my take on that it was something that was in the waiting, like a kind of wave of nationalism, trying to reclaim your country, trying to do things better. And I think that's what hit Benin Republic.
All right, let's bring in Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya, a security consultant, also joins us. I don't know if you saw this coming. As I said, there was something last year, a couple of people were arrested. So a lot of people thought, well, this should not happen again. Talon is not expected to seek a third term. There's been a nomination of who will run for the party. So did you see this coming? And did you maybe have red flags, perhaps with Nigeria's intervention as well? Mr. Adekoya, how are you internalizing this?
Thank you for the question. I think you asked a very good question. For me, for Nigeria's intervention, I think the intervention is spot on. The federal government did what it should do, this time doing it differently. And I think what the federal government did was to learn lessons from Mali, from Burkina Faso, from Niger Republic. I did share a small map with your producers I'm looking from the intervention perspective, first of all, to say that this is spot on, it is right. Nigeria shares about 773 kilometers of borderline with Niger Republic. Whatever impacts Niger can impact Nigeria very quickly. If that crisis snowballs into another thing, we can have a situation at our borders, and for Benin Republic is smack on the border, as I said, 773 kilometers. So whatever happens there impacts on us. The other thing is that, like the Commodore said, if you look at the destabilization of the Sahel, you cannot say it's coincidental that it's happening within that belt, within the Central African to West African to the eastern part of African belts. This stabilization, the way it's occurring and the system to it doesn't suggest coincidence. So Nigerian government should be concerned. Did we see this coming? Yes, there's sufficient red flag. What bothers me a bit is that we are now at a critical intersection between great power politics in Africa, in particular West Africa, where the US is trying to make a comeback. Of course, you saw the diplomatic spark, where France is on the fringes, having lost out on a number of African countries, and where Nigeria is trying to get a sense of itself in its own sphere of influence. If you look at the U.S. national security strategy, it talked about the Monroe Doctrine, where it says that the U.S. will continue to ensure that the conditions happening within its borders are favorable to its own interests. And what the map is showing you is that in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, most of these governments barely control anywhere between 50 to 60% of their own territories. And you have insurgents, Islamic jihadis, almost putting even Niamey in a fire pocket. So I've said several times that we are in a bit of a pickle in Nigeria with these issues coming up. So did we see this coup attempt coming, even in Nigeria? Yes, of course, we did have our own fair share. So there's something more sinister going on if we follow what the data is saying to suggest, I mean, that there's no coincidence. That's just the point I'm making. So Nigeria has every right to take a position that ensures that the continued instabilization of the region is checked and does not pose a threat to Nigeria. Whether we had conversation with France or the US or, I mean, these other things, whether there's internal political ramblings in Benin Republic, those are less of a concern to Nigeria because, Coyote, if you put that map again, you don't want destabilization in Benin. Well, what does that mean is that Cameroon is partly destabilized, Chad has its issue, Niger, and then you put Benin. So what does that mean? It means that we're effectively in a quadrant as a country, So it's a very dangerous situation, and I commend the National Defense Council. I commend the Commander-in-Chief for being decisive this time around in ensuring stability in Benin. The other political considerations we can discuss later, please.
All right, let's take it back to Commodore. Commodore, I want you to make sense of what we're dealing with here. Now, this is close to home. Yeah, it's been close to home technically, but this is close to Lagos. We've done Niger, which is around the northern states. I guess we made mistakes in those some forms of intervention after what had happened in Mali, Burkina Faso, and now this is quite close to home. It means that we're beginning to be encircled as far as these elements are concerned. Mr. Adeka did mention about the Islamic jihadists who are making big encroachment and controlling parts of some of these countries that are even controlled by the military. So it looks like it's not about a form of government. There's something more fundamentally wrong here. Whether it's a democracy or a military rule, there's something triggering what is going on. And one of those which you've mentioned. What do you suspect is the bigger picture here?
Okay, there are many factors that, if we begin to break it down, that could culminate into this. One actually is politics, bad politics, and the sub-Saharan is the behalf of bad politics and misgovernance. If you watch out, when the case of Mali started, there was this issue of trying to shut out opposition. The policies that happened before the takeover, the opposition, the way the opposition was shut out, the shenanigans in the parliament and all that, all those type of things played out before the military stepped in. And there were cries of insecurity in the northern part of the country. It was like the insurgent had a free day in the northern part. The same thing goes for Mali, talking about Guinea-Bissau, all those things. It's the same trend. So what are we talking about here? That government must begin to, especially in the sub-Saharan Africa, begin to address issue of governance. They must take politics seriously. The way we play for, even in Nigeria, look at all the parties, all those indices in all these countries are also present in Nigeria, which are also clear red flags. So while we are paying attention to what is happening around, we must not also take it for granted in Nigeria, because all those indices are present here. Then we'll talk of issues of border, because the insurgencies that plague these countries, that form part of the excuses for this military to come in, are also ravaging Nigeria. Now you find out all the countries that have intersection with 3 countries. In that spot, that intersection, almost all of them along the West African zone are clearly inhabited by insurgents and terrorists. That's why you have in the northwest, in the intersection between Niger, Nigeria, and Benin. In that whole area is a beehive of terrorist activities. That's why you see the problem in northeast Nigeria, in northwest, then part of Benin Republic. So they move across those 3 countries. Then you go to the northeast, to the same thing. The intersection between Nigeria, Cameroon, and Chad is occupied by these terrorist people. And that's why from where we have this incursion also in the northeast. The same thing goes if you go to Burkina Faso, the intersection between Burkina Faso, Ghana, and a pocket of countries around that place, you have insurgents there. So you find out there is a trend. And this is a style that emanated from the ISIS during the time of the ISIS. This is an ISIS style of terrorism. They look for intersection of 2-3 countries, then they dig into that intersection, and they where it's like a no man's land. They move across the 3 countries, try to get a little from A, get from B country, get from C country, then they habit that zone, which is clearly like a no man's land. And that's the trend we're also having in Nigeria. So you also have that red flag in Nigeria. So what am I trying to say? That all these factors, culminating factor, then issue of poverty. You have pervasive poverty in all those countries. You have issues of corruption, endemic corruptions. All these things are present in all these countries where you see the military have intervened and taken over.
All right, Commodore.
And if you look in Nigeria, those things are also there. So talk of Nigeria intervention in Benin Republic. Of course, Nigeria have enough reason to be worried and try to see what they can do in Benin. But I think they left it too late.
All right.
The time I expected Nigeria to put their foot on the ground was the case of Mali. If Nigeria had made a clear statement in Mali that we will not accept military intervention in Mali, perhaps it couldn't have spread to Niger, it couldn't have spread to Chad, it couldn't have spread to Guinea-Bissau, and we wouldn't need to have Benin Republic to contend with now.
All right, let's take it to Mr. Adekoya as we wind down. Sorry, gentlemen, if we had started maybe a bit earlier with the conversation, we would have had.
And Joe, now coming to the coup and what's happening, particularly what has transpired in the Sahelian region, and indeed for the rest in some parts of Africa, what we have, what the tendency, what is happening is almost like a circle. You recall that at independence it was democracy all the way through, and then what happened was that the Democrats, so-called, started becoming dictators, and started abusing power. And so there were agitation among, the populace in the various countries. And then one after the other, military coups started taking place. After a point in time, we decided, okay, no more military coups. Let's come back to what the norm is, which is democracy. And then, the return to power across the continent as well. And then another round of abuse. Abuse in the sense that you have people, look at what's happening in Tanzania where, the president there is sitting tight and, mostly in opposition. And so that is another form of dictatorship, not democracy. Uganda, Cameroon, and so many other countries where the opposition have no say whatsoever. And so the question is, so what then is the difference? What is democracy if the voice of the people doesn't matter or does not matter? And so it is agitation because the military cannot come, and I dare say will not succeed in any coup if they don't have the backing of the people, which is why Niger didn't succeed, because the people were tired, obviously. When Nigeria wanted to, apart from the fact that Nigerians are at least 54% Hausas, more than 54% speak Hausa language. And we have, there's so much, not just historical, but filial ties between Nigerians in northern Nigeria and Niger. And so there was this outcry that no, don't go in there, you go there, and all that were interfering in their affairs. So, but what has happened in this particular case is that, one, we acted swiftly, no notice, there was not enough time for the coupists, but you will also recall that on ground, the Beninois came out and were shouting, down with the regime, which means they were happy about what was happening because Talon himself was no better than any other dictator in the other countries. And if you left him, he would probably be there for as long. But he did what other people didn't do. He quickly called on Big Brother, Nigeria, to come and intervene. And so that's why we were able to go in there and do what we did. But the proprietary or otherwise of that, legally and otherwise, that may be a further discussion. I'll just leave it at this point.
All right, let's bring in Mr. Adebo. I'm happy you mentioned it because I think that sometimes we talk about the effects, cause and effects here. And as you've mentioned, the effect that, look, when these schools happen, for some reason, the people are happy, even though they know it's not the best option. They just want any other thing apart from wherever it is they want out of the system. So isn't it time for us to begin to interrogate the causes? Now, some of us have been a fan of more of HDI rather than GDP. GDP metrics can be very deceptive. Like now the government is saying foreign reserve is good, GDP is growing, and then the lived-in experience is another conversation altogether. So where should we be navigating this conversation, Mr. Demo?
The truth of the matter is, I am, like you, believe that over time we would always say, oh, we just want the people on seats to just leave, and whoever comes is better than that other person. And experience and history have shown that even when they come in, they're probably worse off. One, they're not properly prepared for the role because they're military and they are not trained for governance. And so at the end of the day, as Africans as we are, they also would go in and look out for themselves, you know, build their own empire, and at the end of the day, the people would always be the one that will bear the brunt at the end of the day. So the only indices is how are the people faring? Do we have a fair dealing? Is the country truly developing? Because again, people will tell you, oh, Practice Talon is doing well as regards building infrastructure and all of that. And I've always asked this question: when you say you're building infrastructure and the people are languishing under poverty, you begin to wonder, what infrastructure are you really building? And look, let's be realistic. You can't talk down to me that I am well if I am not well. And if I'm well, I am well. So you saying this is what you're doing and the people are not feeling it directly obviously means that you're really not doing what you ought to be doing. Because you can then do a fazes and say, oh, we're building this road, or we're building that, we're building that. Does it trickle down to how the people are faring? So those are the reasons why immediately the coup happened. As usual, the people came out and started to say, oh, we don't want the previous government anyways, let him leave the government. But at the end of the day, we all know that when we all settle down into the new regime, would naturally want to start, them to behave well. And unfortunately, history has shown that they don't do as well or better than those they house. So it's like he rightly described when he started, it's been a circle, as it were, where the ones who come give us a lot of promise, tell us they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and every time they come in, at least up to this extent, what we're found out is whether they're in khaki, they're military, or they're Democrats, as they describe themselves, we are somewhat getting the same result from them, as it were.
I'd like us to look a bit more about the security implications of whatever is happening, because sometime in the middle of the year, there was some, reported unrest in terms of banditry on the border with Benin Republic as well. And, the ADC is asking very critical questions here of the federal government. If, you could do that for Benin Republic, Nigerians at home are not safe. So perhaps we should be asking the same question as well about this response, to the security challenge on, in the Sahel region. Either it's Burkina Faso or it's Mali. There seems to be a very present challenge of terrorism and banditry. Mr. Okay, I'd like you to answer that. And relatedly, compared to Nigeria's response to Niger, was Benin Republic easy, to intervene in? Because we didn't see the same success in terms of military action in the Niger case. So, hi.
Okay, so I just want to add something to what he said and then take on your questions. The idea behind saying that military people are not prepared, nobody is prepared for governance. If you win election, you take power. And if you check very well, in America, almost everybody has served in the military. Okay? Because that is the nature. The NYC is like military service. And so that, I think it's more a function of the system in place, that's why you have checks and balances in government or in a democracy. But when the institutions collapse, then obviously this is what you get. Now, the first part of your question, or the second part, and then you remind me about the first part again, I just forgot that. But the second part is about the response in Niger compared to Benin. Was it easy and all that? Okay, so Nigeria really wanted to go to Niger. And in any case, we have military formations along those borders. So, and even the Air Force is even closer, to, what do you call it now, Niger. Because Kaduna is up north, and that's where You know, in Benue as well, we have an Air Force base there and all that. So we have our Air Force pretty much closed. We could have just a matter of minutes or under an hour, and they are already there. But the facts on ground in the case of Niger, for instance, is that the people welcomed it, and so you cannot intervene. It's a sovereign country. That is what democracy is. What do the people want?
But the people welcomed that of Benin Republic.
They did, but there was no time to respond. You know, what we did was that, and what made the case of Niger different was the fact that I said we had not just what do you call it now, historical affiliation with them, our brothers in the north, but they're also filial. It might surprise you to know that there are Nigerians who are already contesting elections in Nigeria, and Nigerians who are, you know, who have families in government in Niger. It's an open secret. It's not anything to be hidden. And so when you go to attack, it's like, say, look, you want to come and kill our people? So there was resistance also from the north. So that didn't make it easy. Plus, the response time, there was contemplation. This time, there was no contemplation. There was a non-verbal, instant action. And then what you had was, you know, the next thing, while the coup plotters were still in the station, in the broadcast, with the national broadcast station, and in the barracks where they had taken charge, the Air Force was already on ground. And then the Nigerian army moved the military from the north, you know, the areas that are, you know, bordering Benin, you know, particularly, especially in northern Nigeria there, to move in immediately, you know. So it was swift, it was clinical, and there was nothing. They never saw it coming. The Benin one never saw it coming. That's a surprise element. And that brings me to what I think the first question is, which is the issue of ADC and the rest. You wonder, and then I want to refer to us to the immediate past defense minister who said, no, you can't attack Boko Haram or the bandits in the north because the Air Force cannot, because bombs cannot penetrate Sambisa. That was nonsensical as far as I'm concerned. Are you saying that the bombs cannot go through trees and all that? That argument was absurd, you know. So it just tells you that, you know, more of what you see is not. We have heard from our armed forces, even the ordinary soldiers, that if you want insecurity to end within 48, maybe even 24 hours, it is possible that they have the capability, they have the might, they have all it takes. They've been on the ground. They have weighed themselves against. It's like two football teams say, look, we'll beat these guys. They're no. You understand what I'm saying? But if they have a referee to contend with, there's very little that they can do. And so they have repeatedly told us. And so you ask yourself, so it's one of several things. The willingness to end it. Okay? And then, you know, the willingness to end it really. Okay. I think, sorry, let me just say this. Corruption is at the bane. If we have time, we'll talk about it. Because obviously there are people who are benefiting from these things being protracted.
Right. So let's bring Ms. Adebo. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of time. Just as the conversation just got started, we're told to wrap up. So let's talk about the interplay of geopolitics around all of this. And the bad habit of our leaders in sit-tight mentality. Neighboring Cameroon has elected in 90 whatever. It's a very shameful situation we found ourselves. In fact, the issue around what was that called, Guinea-Bissau? It was the president that announced the coup.
Yeah.
So help us understand how we can manage this situation about the interplay of geopolitics. When we talk about geopolitics, sometimes I don't like to blame the people that are making it happen. How we respond is another. Is more. How should we respond to the interplay of geopolitics in the midst of all of this, in cahoots with elements that we know that are leaders of our continent?
I think I agree that we should look at the way we react, because I think we have more control over that than the way they react, because it seems and it's clear that they're set in their ways that we will continue to have, you know, different versions of the way they are right now across Africa, because unfortunately, I mean, when you look at the way they behave, sometimes you just wonder what exactly is wrong with them as our leaders. So we, the people, I think it's important that we are very clear of who we vote in, because I believe that we've seen an example of the fact that if we, the people, are willing, we can really change the situation. For instance, what happened in Lagos, I mean, during the last election, the OB thing, it was like Lagos was going to be taken if we had tried more, away from the party that all of us had thought that could never be voted out. And for whatever reason, in the middle of the road or towards the end of the road, we sort of cowed in, and at the end of the day, we lost it. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is we have the power as a people, because clearly we are exposed, we have knowledge, we felt the pain over and over again, and we obviously know what is right from wrong. So why are we not taking it to the point of saying, look, we don't want you people, we don't want this kind of people, these are the kind of people we want. I believe that it is possible. I believe that as a people we need to come together. And one thing that people have said over and over again that I disagree with is, it is only us in the South that see things in this particular way. I disagree. I believe that we have not done well in recruiting people from the north who also think like us, because there are a lot of Nigerians across Nigeria who think like this, who feel the need for a proper change. And so we need to find a way of sort of making sure we have them on our side and have one body, because I think it is very, very wrong on our part to feel that, the only people who think the way we think are the Southerners, maybe from the East Nigeria or from Southwest Nigeria. It's not true. There are Northerners who also feel and are tired of the way things have been over time. The thing we need to do right now is to find a way of knowing them, identifying them, and all of us coming together to truly take these people out, because we can't continue to have things the way they are right now, because we will never have another result with the same arrangement.
And that's as candid can get, when you consider the dynamics of the consequences of politics, the paradox of electing, democratically elected officials, and then you have the bullets change it, and in some countries they welcome the change of bullets, so which way, Africa, benevolent dictator or the democratically elected government that doesn't deliver?
So guys, there's this reaction as to during the last time that there was a coup, a military coup, the northern governors rejected Tinubu invading Niger, but today now the northern governors are approving the invasion of Benin Republic, because Benin is not a northern state, Northern senators rejected it when the power-drunk, foolish French slave requested it. Today, the stupid southern senators have allowed for the invasion of sovereign nation. Nigeria is going to war. This one is another thing. So the northerners rejected it when it was time for Niger. But today, you see, that's why people are saying there's even no point supporting these people, because tomorrow, Burkina Faso is going to support the northerners. Nigerian Air Force, Belgium military aircraft heads to Burkina Faso. Nigerian Air Force, Belgium military aircraft heads to Burkina Faso. Can you imagine? Hey, has the war broken? Anyway, let me read this. You know that Nigerian military plane was seized in Burkina Faso. And now we are hearing that Belgium military aircraft is going to Burkina Faso. Let's see what it's going there to do. Let me read what this article says. Belgium Air Force Airbus 400M Atlas cargo aircraft is reportedly heading to Burkina Faso. Brand Philip, a Sahel region security analyst known for tracking military movement across West Africa, described the development as unexpected. In a box on X, Philip wrote that the Belgian military aircraft was headed to the location where the Nigerian air cargo plane is currently positioned. He had earlier stated that the unidentified aircraft from Bamako, Mali, took off a few hours towards the north of the country before heading south towards Bambo de Alasso, Burkina Faso. He wrote, Belgium Air Force Airbus 400 Atlas cargo aircraft is unexpectedly landing in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. An unidentified aircraft from Bamako, Mali, took off hours ago towards the north of the country before heading south towards Bambo, whatever, where the Nigerian Air Force cargo plane is currently stationed. Possible Malian delegation en route from Mali. Recall that since Monday night, at least 11 Nigerian soldiers were being currently held by the military regime in the southwest Burkina Faso. They were detained after aircraft conducted an emergency landing while violating AES airspace. And this one's a Daily Post reported that a group of military officers had on Saturday 7 announced the overthrow of Benin Republic government. However, Benin Republic presidency said the coup was squashed and that the president Patrick Talon was saved. Now again, Senate approves troops deployment to Benin Republic. 11 soldiers captured by military regime in Burkina Faso. This headline here says security experts revealed reason NFA was flying over Burkina Faso. Nigeria government silence as military aircraft is detained in Burkina Faso. Now let me read. Security expert reveals why this Nigerian military plane was held in Burkina Faso. He went ahead to say the only reason Nigerian Air Force C-13 was flying over southwest Burkina Faso has been revealed. According to Brant Philip, a Sahel region analyst known for tracking military movement across Africa, the Nigerian military aircraft was headed towards Senegal, adding that nothing too suspicious. Daily Post reported on Monday night that at least 11 Nigerian soldiers were currently held by the military regime in southwest of Burkina Faso. They were captured after their aircraft conducted an emergency landing while violating AES airspace. This was confirmed by AES in a statement shared on X by security analyst Brant Grant on Monday night. The only plausible reason by the Nigerian Air Force C-130 was flying over southwest Burkina Faso is that it was headed towards Senegal. Nothing too suspicious, Brandt wrote on X. In trying to explain what might have led to the emergency landing, he said, I initially guessed that NAF C-130 cargo plane was heading towards Tamale, Ghana, but the turn of its transponder either intentionally or related to emergency situation and went ghost and continued northwest towards Burkina Faso, where it was forced to land in an emergency. Reports have it that the AES position its air and anti-air defense at maximum alert and authorized defense apparatus to neutralize any aircraft violating the Confederation space, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. So guys, this is the news reaching us that was why they had to command it to land. The Tinubu's government is here to tell Nigerians more on this. Now, this news, yes, is okay. I think this is not today's news. So, this is it. You must have heard that the Senate has also approved Tinubu's request for troops to be sent to Benin Republic. And many people are criticizing the Northerners that when it was Niger, the North resisted it, and now it is Benin Republic. The Southern governors are sleeping. Bunch of jokers. The North will always play their card well, but you see the South is anyhow. So guys, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification. Thank you.